For several years, I've had a strong interest in making content of various forms, for better or worse. Over this time, I've used multiple editing softwares and even some animation suites to create videos. Starting out on iMovie, as well as several stop motion and basic 2D animation apps on an iPad, before eventually upgrading to Premiere Pro for video editing and Adobe Animate for 2D animation. However, I haven't really known how apps like these actually function. Sure, I know how to manipulate footage in keyframe rigs, but until now, I didn't actually know how the programming behind these apps allowed me to do this. So in this video, I'll give you an explanation of the code behind these two apps, to give you an idea of how softwares like this actually operate, as well as a better understanding of the relationship between coding and visual media production. The first version of what would become known as Adobe Premiere Pro was created in 1991 as Realtime. This was an application designed to be a QuickTime-based editing software for earlier versions of Mac OS. The project was developed by Supermac Technology, which was focused on creating licensed clones of Macintosh computers. The project was acquired by Adobe Systems and rebranded as Adobe Premiere before it was publicly released in 2003 on its 6th version. Premiere Pro is mostly coded on the C++ programming language, which is one of the most common languages for programming things like operating systems, applications, and websites, among other things. As for Adobe Animate, this program's first version was released as Future Splash Animator in May of 1996. It was developed by FutureWave Software, who specialised in vector-based programs for drawing and animation on pen-based computers. It was available for Windows and Mac OS. FutureWave was acquired by a company called Macromedia in 1997, before Macromedia was acquired by Adobe in 2005. Adobe Animate was also programmed in C++, as well as JavaScript and ActionScript, which is an object-oriented programming language that is essentially an extension of JavaScript. Especially in terms of Adobe Animate and other programs like it, the code written in C++ creates algorithms, which in turn allow you to create animations. Now, it is possible to create these animations by writing the code by itself, but that would be very time consuming. Having it in the format of a workspace like this massively simplifies the process of creating an animation. So if I wanted to change the appearance of a mouth or the movement of an arm on one of these character rigs, I can just select the body part I want to animate and change it accordingly, as opposed to having to write multiple lines of code to make the rig move just a few frames, let alone writing several times more lines of code to build the character rig from scratch. Editing with videos seems to be somewhat similar, but this idea of code being simplified mainly just applies to the functions and effects that a video file can be manipulated by rather than, say, the actual rigs and objects in the case of Adobe Animate. The link between coding and animation in particular is stronger, because animation is often considered a direct evolution of coding. In other words, coding creates the foundations for how animations are created. The process of animation in turn breathes life into static objects and figures.